Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of the Disney Dining Show. My name is Pete Werner. I am your host, joined at the table this week by the usual suspects, Mr. Sean Falk.
Hi.
And Mr. Steve Porter.
Hello.
And for this episode, we're doing something a little different. Since Thanksgiving is just around the corner, we thought we would share our favorite Disney or Disney-inspired recipes that would make a nice addition to your Thanksgiving dinner. Now, don't worry. We are going to include links to all these recipes on our show notes page. Just head over to disunplugged.com and check out the show notes for the for the Disney Dining Show. I lose track of the shows that I do. Just click the link for the Disney Dining Show, and under this week's episode, you will find links to check out all of these recipes. So we're going to get started. Number 3 for me, because I have 3, Steve has 3, Sean has 2, but not because he's lazy. In fact, he put more effort into this than the rest of us did. And you'll understand why as we go on. But number 3 for me is one that I just made recently for the first time. It's the mac and cheese from Jiko at Disney's Animal Kingdom Lodge. It's not a difficult dish to do if you're even mildly experienced with cooking. Timing is kind of important on this. The ingredients: butter, flour, 2.5 cups of whole milk, 8 ounces of shredded Italian 4-cheese blend. So you're looking for something like a blend of mozzarella, Asiago, Fontina, and provolone, but any 4 or 5 cheese will do. A quarter teaspoon of coarse salt, some ground black pepper, and a pound of elbow macaroni. And there's a timing to this. You know, when you create the roux, you're creating the roux for this, for the base of it, using flour and butter in a pan. So you got to be careful not to burn that mixture, otherwise it's going to screw the whole thing up. And then you got to sit there and you got to when you add the milk, you got to stir it, and you got to keep stirring it constantly until it starts to thicken. Then you add the cheese. So in all, it took about 35 minutes to do this dish. But it is a dish that really should not be done in advance. See, I like to have some dishes that I can do the night before, because I usually cook a big Thanksgiving meal, and the day of, the last thing you want to be doing is. So if you have the time, this is a great dish. I only ever had this when it's the bed underneath the filet that they do, and then they put the red wine reduction over it. So I've only ever had this mac and cheese when it has red wine reduction on it. I didn't realize it's a very mild mac and cheese. It's delicious, but it's mild. It's not. So I went ahead and I added, because I wanted to give it a little bit more punch. So I added a decent amount of grated Parmesan cheese to it and kind of melted that into it. And, also the pepper helps. Pepper helps kind of give it some kick. Otherwise, it's designed to be a bed underneath. It doesn't want to take away from the flavor of the filet, or certainly the red wine reduction. So it's designed to be a more mild. So if you like a mild mac and cheese, it's delicious. I mean, family really enjoyed it when I made it. But that is my number 3. What about you, Steve?
Okay, well, I've never made this because I'm not a great cook or a baker.
Isn't that why you got married?
Well, she's a lot better than I am.
Throw a recipe at her and say, make this.
Well, maybe I will with this one, because
that's how it works.
She's actually really good at cooking, so maybe I will with this one. But we recently experienced Chip's sticky bun bake from Garden Grill, and we all loved it. So I was like, I wonder if there's the recipe out there. And it's not really a traditional Thanksgiving thing, but I figured if you wanted to mix it up for your Thanksgiving dessert, this is delicious, and it yields.
That was amazing.
It yields up to 6 to 8 people. You're probably going to want to make 2 just because they're so good. And
one for you, one for everyone else. Yeah.
Right. So it is a little bit more confusing than I thought it was, but I'll go through. So there's 3 basically main parts to this. There's a cinnamon smear, there's a sweet cinnamon dough, and there's the icing. So for the cinnamon smear, it's 1 1/4 cup of margarine softened, 2 teaspoons of cinnamon, 2 1/4 cup of brown sugar, and 2 eggs. That's for the
2 1/4 cups of brown sugar just in the schmear.
Yeah. So then for the sweet cinnamon dough, there's 1 cup of milk, 2 ounces or 2/3 ounces of cake yeast crumbled. Don't know what that means, but this recipe is on Disney Parks blog, so go check it out. I'll put the link. Maybe we could put the links in there. 1/4 cup of sugar, 1/2 cup of butter softened, a pinch of salt, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon, 3 cups of bread flour, and 2 room temperature eggs. And then for the icing, it is 1 tablespoon of milk, 1 1/2 cup of confectionery sugar, 4 tablespoons of butter softened, and 1 teaspoon of vanilla extract.
Okay, folks, we're up to about a pound of sugar.
Yeah. You can see why it tastes
in one bun. I mean, they're big. They're big.
Yeah,
buns.
they are big. But yes,
just buy the whole baking aisle, and you're pretty set.
You could probably get the industrial Costco or BJ's pack of cinnamon for this.
God.
Anyways, for the cinnamon smear, you're gonna cream together margarine, cinnamon, and brown sugar. And then step 2, you're gonna add eggs 1 at a time, scraping the bowl after adding each egg to mix well and then place in the refrigerator. So kind of just crack an egg, kind of mix it up, and then crack the next egg, move on. And then you put that in the refrigerator. For the sweet cinnamon dough, you're gonna heat milk to a small sauce at 90 to 95 degrees Fahrenheit. Then remove from heat.
This is complicated.
Yeah, but it's delicious, so I think it's worth it. If you have someone that's
you're not the one that has to cook
right?
it. So.
I'm not the one that's making it, so this is on you guys. Add cake yeast and then whisk until dissolved. Set aside. Then mix sugar, butter, salt, cinnamon, eggs, flour in a large bowl until smooth. Then step 3.
We're going to have to go through like every step in the recipe,
Okay.
just kind of like what's in it and what's kind of in,
Yeah, so basically you're mixing this together, kneading it
Because
together.
if we have to go for every ingredient, we're going to be here for a month and a half with Sean.
It'd be a
Okay,
mess, so.
and this is way longer than I thought it was. So basically you're kneading it together, baking it. It is really delicious. There are separate parts, it seems like here. This is not just something that you can get the frosting from the bakery aisle. This is intensive. But it's so good that I think it's worth it if you know someone that's an expert baker.
And this might be something, again, that you could make the day before. For me, the baking process for Thanksgiving really begins like 2 days ahead of time. Mm-hmm. So I start doing things that I know are fine to will keep and still taste good on Thanksgiving Day.
Well, and you could save from putting the icing or maybe the cinnamon smear on until to maybe warm it back up with the cinnamon smear or whatever you need to do. So,
all right, now, and that kind of parlays into my my number 2 item. Again, I like dishes that are quick and easy, but taste. You get like, wow, this is really good. I mean, that's the ultimate payoff, right? Especially Thanksgiving, because if you're cooking Thanksgiving dinner, now, I think like I have to remember too, a recipe like that, if you're bringing something to Thanksgiving dinner, then you can invest time in doing that. If you're the primary cook for Thanksgiving and you're like me, you're looking at that recipe going, oh, hell no.
Yeah.
I am not spending that
I've never
kind of
cooked
time.
Thanksgiving dinner, so maybe I was not the right person for this.
Well, no, I'm saying though, but I think for a lot of people, they're going somewhere for Thanksgiving and they want to bring something.
Right.
They want to bring something special. Right. That's a nice way to do it.
True.
But if you're the one cooking the meal, then the Cranberry Relish from Liberty Tree Tavern, when you go to have the meal at Liberty Tree Tavern, which is, pretty much a Thanksgiving meal. It's got, stuffing and turkey and ham and things like that. I tasted this cranberry relish, and I'm like, because I love cranberry sauce. I don't like it out of a can. I like it fresh. And I know not everybody does. Not everybody's a big cranberry fan. This stuff is so good. And not only is it good on your plate on Thanksgiving, it is so good on your sandwich with the leftovers the day after. This is very simple. A bag of cranberries. The recipe calls for a 12-ounce jar of orange marmalade. I cut that in half. I found it way too sweet with a full jar of the orange marmalade. a teaspoon of cinnamon, 3/4 of a cup of brown sugar, some kosher salt, and some pepper to taste. And then with a stick blender, you just put all of these things in a bowl, and with a stick blender, you grind it up. And you kind of get, it's more of a chunky relish. You got nice little chunks of cranberry in there. Mm-hmm. Throw it in the, put it in a serving bowl, throw it in the refrigerator, cover it, throw it in the refrigerator, and you're done. You're done. There's no cooking. There's no boiling anything. There's no nothing. And it's absolutely delicious. And it takes, I can make this in 10 minutes. And it's unique. It's got a great flavor profile to it. The cinnamon really adds something to it. That's what got me when I first tasted it, was the cinnamon in it. You can, be a little creative and maybe throw a little nutmeg in there or something. Any of those fall flavors go really well with this. But it's incredibly easy to make. So that's my number 2. Let's come over to you, Sean, for your number 2.
My number 2 actually is churros from Disney. I don't feel like, everyone likes churros. I just don't think it's something people really make at home that often, and it takes all of 7 minutes to make churros, and honestly you can make them way better than Disney. So I don't care for Disney's churros that much. They're way better when you make them at home. So you'll just have like a small saucepan and put it on the stovetop. And so you have to mix a cup of water, 2.5 tablespoons of sugar, and 2.5 teaspoon of salt together, and 2 tablespoons of vegetable oil. And so just bring all that to a boil. And meanwhile, you're going to kind of mix it in flour, and you'll put it in piping bags and literally just pipe it right into the grease or whatever, the oil that you have frying up on the stove. So once it's that's how it gets that star shape. It's literally just the end of the piping
I never would have
bag.
thought of that. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just the end of the piping bag. And so whenever they're nice and fried up, you'll take it out and put it in a mix of, you'll take sugar and cinnamon and kind of like put it out on a plate and just roll it around in the sugar and cinnamon.
Well, that is simple, isn't it?
What sticks, and that's what you eat. So, or whatever. And literally you're done that quick. So that's how easy churros are. And you can even make like some sauces if you want, like raspberry or chocolate sauce in a cup, or, dulce de leche or whatever. Yeah, whatever you'd want to put, really. And, you got a pretty easy, even snack, like beyond Thanksgiving for kids kind of thing. So after school snack, that's a pretty quick thing to do. If you want it to be like Disney, you can leave it out for like 2 hours and let it stale a bit and then eat it. So, and then have a really authentic one. So,
wow.
Try it at home. It's way better. So...
All right. Thank you, Sean. Steve, what's on your number 2?
Okay, I have the clam chowder from Liberty Tree Tavern. I think it's also at Columbia Harbor House, is the same clam chowder as well. But yeah, I won't read the whole thing like I did last time, but essentially you're going to need salad oil, celery, a cup of onions, flour, clam juice, milk, potatoes, chopped clams, salt, and white pepper, and ground thyme. Is that how to pronounce it? Mm-hmm. I think so. Yeah. And basically you're going to make a roux with flour and this, like a couple of the other ingredients, and then you're going to mix it together in a separate pot with the clam juice and the milk that are going to simmer together. You combine those two, and then you add the potatoes and the clams to season the soup, and then you let it simmer for 20 minutes. And then it says you can make this up to 3 days in advance. So that's the thing that stuck out for me because of what you'd mentioned earlier with you're trying to make something early for Thanksgiving. So you can make this 3 days in advance, and then it says you can just kind of reheat it when you need to use it. So that's kind of what stuck out for me as a Thanksgiving idea.
Well, yeah, and like I said, when you're the primary cook of the meal, you really are trying, because, depending, like I normally... I don't know, I'll feed anywhere from 12 to 20 people on Thanksgiving Day. Mm-hmm. And so, and I have to time everything. I want everything to come out hot. So I'm trying to time everything. And it's a lot easier to time out, when can I reheat something versus when do I have to start cooking something on Thanksgiving Day. On Thanksgiving Day, I really just like it to be like the turkey and a couple other things that need to be cooked that day. I've also employed now, because I have a double oven in the kitchen, but that's not enough for me. So I got one of those countertop ovens, and I actually cooked a couple of turkey breasts in it yesterday, and it came out awesome. So it kind of gives me, because this thing will hold like a 24-ounce or a 24-pound bird.
Oh, wow.
So it kind of gives me a third oven to use on Thanksgiving Day. But I also, because I'm insane, I go nuts with Thanksgiving. So, all right. So, sorry. My number one, I've done this the last couple of Thanksgivings, and it's always a hit. And again, so easy to make. The cornbread from Trails End at Fort Wilderness. That cornbread is legendary. And the first time I made this, I thought to myself, I must have done something wrong before I actually tasted it. I must have done something wrong because this was too easy.
Right.
This was too quick. Again, cornmeal, sugar, salt, baking powder, flour, vegetable oil, milk, and eggs. Things, generally speaking, you'll have in your house at any given point in time. It's really just about blending the dry ingredients in one bowl, the wet ingredients, or, because Rhino's in the back of the room, the moist ingredients in another bowl, and then just slowly incorporating them just until they're mixed. You don't have to go crazy. You don't want to go crazy. You just want to blend them together till it's all mixed, and then in a 9 by 13 inch baking pan, you spray some Pam nonstick in there. Pour the batter in. Bake in a preheated oven at 375 degrees. For 20 to 25 minutes, and you are done. And it is so good. Now, this is I guess what is referred to as a northern cornbread. So it's a sweeter cornbread, which I prefer, being from the north, as opposed to the southern cornbread, which tends to be more, I don't know, crappy. No, cakey.
Crappy,
It's
yeah.
not quite as sweet and kind of cakey and.
Yeah, no, I mean, I grew up in the South, but I actually do prefer the northern cornbread, but I like sugary, sweet stuff by comparison to like salty, savory type things. But I mean, even with this kind of thing, it's easy to with the northern kind, you can kind of throw in walnuts even or whatever, like to make it even more of a thing, give it some crunch. And then like for the southern, people add onions or jalapenos or green peppers or different things like that.
Crazy stuff you people
if
put
they
in
want
cornbread.
to add into cornbread, like you can.
See, and I
so.
think I like my cornbread
Straight up.
straight up. And this, based on my experience, I would at the most do this the night before. I wouldn't do it any earlier than that. Just make sure you wrap it up in saran wrap. You don't want this to dry out, because really one of its great features is how moist. There's another word that Rhino loves. How moist it is. And so I'd wrap it in saran wrap if you're not going to do it that day. It can be done the night before, but I wouldn't let it sit too long. So that's my number one. What about you, Steve?
My number one is actually an alternative to my number two. It's a different soup. So if you don't want the clam chowder, you're not a seafood person, I have the cheddar cheese soup, which is pretty iconic. People love the cheddar cheese soup.
This is from Le Cellier.
Yes. Yep. Sorry, I didn't mention that. Serves up to 8 people. You're going to need milk, bacon, butter, celery, onions, flour, chicken stock, cheddar cheese, shredded cheddar cheese, kosher salt, black pepper, Tabasco sauce, which I didn't know that, Worcestershire sauce.
Worcestershire sauce.
Yes. And 12 ounces of slightly warm ale. Beer, yes. So yeah, you're just going to slowly heat milk and then add bacon, and basically you can read the instructions online. But this is another one, again, that it says you can, as long as you don't bring it to a boil, you can reheat this. It will break down if you bring it to a boil, but it's another one, again, that I saw that was like, all right, here's another one that you can.
And while this is not an overly difficult recipe to do, it does require timing, and it does require some caveats, like Steve just pointed out, not bringing it to a boil. So that means you really got to watch this, and you got to watch your heat while you're cooking it. So it does involve a little bit of attention. Those are the recipes that scare the hell out of me, because I know I know. I mean, I'm a decent cook. I'm not going to say I'm great. I can get. I know my way around a kitchen. But there are certain recipes that I'm like, nope, too hard.
Well, that's what I don't know. I've never cooked Thanksgiving, so Thanksgiving Day meal. So I probably wasn't the person for this. I don't know.
No, it's a great recipe, and it's something you like. And now your wife knows this is what she has to make you.
Well,
So, all right, now we saved we saved the most involved.
Yeah.
And I have tasted these, and they were amazing. Sean brought them over last week. Because he tested out doing it.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead with your number one, Sean.
Okay. For my number one, I figured I needed to kind of come up with my own concept. I'm not the biggest Thanksgiving fan. I don't really care for Thanksgiving food. But I like dessert a lot. So, and I'm pretty hard on Disney about their desserts, and I don't think they overall make great desserts, and so I figured I better like put up or shut up and outdo them or whatever in this case, or stop talking crap about them. So, and then I did, so I'm fine with that. So what I decided to do was make 4 different types of cupcakes. It's honestly something you're going to want to do like 3 days before Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm. This is involved.
Or not even for Thanksgiving, like a week later, and just be like, okay, this is like an extra thing getting ready for Christmas or something that I've decided to do. So I want to do mine themed. So they are 100 Acre Woods themed. So one of them is going to be Winnie the Pooh. We got Piglet, Tigger, and Eeyore, and there's going to be links to all of them. So I made up the recipes myself, and I did end up the first time I went through them, I made my own cake batter as well. The second run through, I did like the Betty Crocker instant bakes, and they actually were better. I thought they were more moist, so it's
Moist.
alright. They literally say it on the box. I'm sorry. It's
a normal word.
It's super moist.
Rhino is abnormal with his disdain of the words moist and damp and
yeah. Literally, the brand is Betty Crocker Super Moist Cakes or whatever. That's the flavors on them. So,
I want everyone to hashtag Rhino on Twitter with the hashtag super moist.
Yep. Yeah, so it's like our Winnie the Pooh one is going to have a yellow cake. Piglet is going to have a vanilla cake. Eeyore is going to be the chocolate fudge. And for Tigger, I actually did a variant of it. I did the chocolate fudge, but I added in espresso to it to kind of give it that Tigger
it was delicious
energetic upliftingness here. And then where it really gets involved is all the different icings. So like the links are also there, and like it's a breakdown of all of it. So there's just a few things like as you're going through it, like the Tigger one is going to have orange juice, orange zest, all those kind of things in it. It's
that was really
very
good.
Orange flavor, like it's orange, like it is orange, it's espresso, and that's what this thing tastes like. So, but it gets weird with like if you want to get the exact colors down. I kind of put a little guide there on how to do some like food coloring a bit better if you want to get that Tigger orange color. And there's another one, the Winnie the Pooh one is going to have a honey buttercream icing on top, or actually a honey cream cheese.
Oh, so good.
The honey. For me, it was fine. I like honey flavor a lot, though. But everyone who tried it, they were like, "Oh, like you could cut the honey in half, or whatever," because it was like a little too much honey flavor. So, but on top of it is a spun sugar nest, which you may have seen on like cooking shows or whatever, where they have like the razor thin looking sugar and it's kind of like swirled on top of it. That's a really difficult process. I've never attempted it before, and
which was really impressive that you'd never done that before, and it looked so cool.
It is very hard. You will destroy your kitchen. You'll destroy your hands because it gets like way over 300 degrees whenever you're doing it. So, and there's a lot of splashback on it. So about like frying bacon on a stove, like there is that element of it, and it just like scalds your hands. Anywhere it gets on, it just hardens onto your countertops and everywhere else. So I probably spent an hour and a half cleaning like spun sugar off of things after I was done with this. So it's a process. You really got to commit to this. Like all 4 of them are a complete like disaster of a process. They taste great and they were well worth it at the end of the day because I was like, these are really good cupcakes, but just know before you go into it, before you even start like delving through recipes, like this is not something for people who aren't ready to invest some time into this thing. So you're going to want to put a couple hours into this for sure. So for all 4 of them and like making different batches and stuff. So
yeah, but I'll tell you, they were amazing. They were absolutely amazing.
Hashtag amazing experience.
Amazing. It was. Eating them was an amazing experience.
Yeah, he ate all of them. There was none left at all. So
well, they were good.
Yeah,
I figured that's why you brought them.
Yeah, no, I did. Yeah, no, he every bite or what was gone from all the cupcakes. So.
I mean, the Tigger one, I think, arguably was my favorite because I love.
But you're a huge coffee person.
I love the flavor of the coffee in it, but it wasn't overpowering either.
Right.
It wasn't like, oh my god, there's so much coffee in this.
Yeah,
there was that hint of it.
And see, I don't like coffee at all, but when I ate it, I was like, oh, I actually enjoy this. It has just a bit of like that bitterness in it to like make it.
But it's also offset by that icing, and so it was delicious. They were amazing.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that you liked to bake.
Yeah, me too.
Because he walks around saying, "Oh, I can't cook," and then he comes back with these things.
I can't
like,
cook. I can bake. Like
if you can
to me,
bake,
it's mathematical stuff more so than like cooking is from the heart, and I don't have a heart, so I have a brain for math. That's it. So that's where it is. So
okay. And he'll be appearing on Broadway in The Wizard of Oz as the Cowardly Lion. All right, so there you have it. Those are our picks for Disney and Disney-inspired recipes that might make a nice addition to your Thanksgiving table this year. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be back with you again next week with another episode of the Disney Dining Show. Have a great week, everyone.